Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of the Very Cold Lasagna podcast. I am your host, Dylan Lasagna, and this is episode number 234 of this icy yet spicy podcast for all the filthy casual takes on the world of sports. In this episode, we're here to go back into the coldest depths of the freezer, grab that old icebox for another blast of the past retro review. So, how far back are we going into the past this time around? Well, let me tell you. We're going to go back 25 years into the past to the year of 1999 and talk about this particular pay-per-view by the WWF, which was the name for the WWE at the time, and talk about a pay-per-view that happened 25 years ago. It was the very first pay-per-view for the WWF titled Armageddon, where the end was near. So yes, this is the very first pay-per-view for the WWF titled Armageddon. I mean, not like very first WWF pay-per-view, but the very first edition of WWF Armageddon in 1999. And this happened 25 years ago, and we're going to talk about it 25 years later on its 25th anniversary. So strap in, buckle up, get that very cold lasagna, but of course, don't eat it. I highly don't recommend it. And before we do, make sure you follow Very Cold Lasagna on social media, or wherever I'm at, whether it's on Twitter or Instagram at Very Cold Lasagna. And if you're listening to this on audio, make sure you rate and review the show 1 to 5 stars wherever I'm available on, whether it's on Apple Podcasts or Spotify. And if you're watching this on YouTube, make sure you smash the like button, smash the subscribe button if you're not subscribed already, which I highly recommend you do. And then smash the notification bell. Make sure you have those notifs on so you'll be notified of each and every episode and upload that goes up on the Very Cold Lasagna YouTube channel. And make sure you comment down below your takes on each and every episode and upload that goes up. And in this case, the topic being the WWF show Armageddon in the year of 1999. And then make sure you share this with your friends. Share this with a neighbor. Share this with a stranger. Share this with your coworkers, your colleagues, whoever it may be. Share the good, the bad, the ugly about Very Cold Lasagna. So WWF Armageddon. This was the WWE's, then known as the World Wrestling Federation at the time. This was the WWF's final pay-per-view of 1999. This took place on December 12th of that year. And again, this was the last pay-per-view of that year going into the new millennium, the 2000s. The last pay-per-view of the 1900s. So why not go out with a bang with the pay-per-view name that fits the billing of first ever Armageddon? So yeah, they picked out this name, and yeah, like I said, very fitting of the billing. And this was around the time that WWE established Armageddon as part of their initiative, where they're starting to phase out the in your house branding that they started back in 1995, where it had in your house, beware of dog, or in your house backlash. But they wanted to go for more permanent traditional names, like not really traditional names, but like names that didn't have in your house right in front of it. So like I say, with Armageddon or Backlash, No Way Out, what's another one? Fully Loaded. Yeah, those kinds of names. So they wanted to go with more permanent names that didn't have the in your house branding in it for their monthly pay-per-views. So here we were with Armageddon, the December pay-per-view of the year. And yeah, it's pretty fitting for a December pay-per-view because of the tagline, "The end is here," to signal that it's the final pay-per-view of the year going into the next year, especially, considering, like I said, with the circumstances of that year, 1999, going to the new millennium, Y2K. So yeah, a very, very nice choice for a pay-per-view name, albeit that controversial Y2K stuff. Even though I'm too young to remember that, by the way, but I'm kind of very vaguely in the know about it. But anyway, the very first Armageddon event took place in Sunrise, Florida at the National Car Rental Center. Yeah, it's a very weird name for an arena, by the way, but they changed the name. And these days, it's now known as the Amerant Bank Arena, and home of the reigning, defending, undisputed Stanley Cup champions, the Florida Panthers. If you don't know who or what the Florida Panthers are, they are the National Hockey League's Florida team. Yeah, the Florida Panthers. And they house a championship known as the Stanley Cup. It's a very historic title for hockey. So there you go. A little bit of a history lesson there, pal. So looking at the match card itself for this pay-per-view, during a time where it was pretty big for wrestling, it was a lot of people say it was a great time to be a wrestling fan, pal. The Attitude Era was at its peak. It was like very wild and very raunchy. Like, this was a crazy period. But when you look at this pay-per-view, Armageddon, it'll make you question what the hell happened on this show. And there were some things that were okay, but then a lot of it would have you thinking, why did this happen? Like, why did this happen? Even the most hardcore wrestling fan will make you say to yourself, like, why did you watch this show? Like, even watching it back then, even if you watched it back then, like, if you're a hardcore wrestling fan out there, they probably would have said, like, yeah, like, why? Like, what are you doing here? Like, why did we come here to watch this? But here I am as a filthy casual fan. I mean, I'm sharing out these thoughts like already, and we haven't even gotten to the show discussing it. But that being said, it's its 15th anniversary. 25th anniversary of this pay-per-view. I mean, the reason why I wanted to look back on it is because of a specific ending to the pay-per-view. But we'll get there when we get there, because it was very notable of how it ended going into the new millennium, of a little bit of a turning point going into the Attitude Era. But we'll get there when we get there. We still have plenty to go through this very interesting card, and I'm not sure if it's in a good way. But again, probably some Attitude Era fans out there, probably some hardcore wrestling fans out there, and that have watched this show, and it'll make you say, why the hell did you watch this? But anyway, questioning my sanity or not of this show, I went and watched it, and we're going to take a look at it in this retro review of WWF Armageddon 1999 on its 25th anniversary. So let's get into the match card, shall we? Starting off with the Sunday Night Heat pre-show. You're probably scrambling around, pal, looking for your mama, your dada, as you're watching this Sunday Night Heat pre-show on whatever channel it was on back then, on the television, and you're probably asking your mom, your dad for the credit card, and trying to call your cable provider. It's like, I need to get this pay-per-view, pal, because in the background was Al Snow taking on Test, and you saw while that was on the air, you had these video packages of the main event, these key matches, and you had this match. A very quick matchup to try and get this crowd, which will be the topic of discussion, by the way. This sunrise crowd. It didn't really feel sunrisey. They tried to get them warmed up. Both men got their stuff in, and, well, they didn't really do their best, to be honest with you. This is a very quick matchup, by the way. Al Snow countered Test's deadly fruit roll-up with one of his own to get the win. Honestly, not really a whole lot to unpack here, because, again, it was like, 3 minutes? So, yeah, it was like a 3-minute matchup. Al Snow got the win here. Moving on. So let's get into the main show here. We kicked it off with a WWF Tag Team Title #1 contender Battle Royale, a whole cluster, you know what. The participants were Bradshaw and Farouk, the Hardy Boys, Godfather and Mark Henry. Why were they a tag team back then? The Headbangers, Mosh and Thrasher, Edge and Christian, the Dudley Boys, the Mean Street Posse, and Too Cool. A bunch of crazy tag teams here. Some star power like Edge and Christian, the Dudleys, the Hardys. You also got the APA during its heyday. It's early day, so and Too Cool too. Let's not forget Sky Too Hottie as well. So some pretty good tag teams here. But boy, was this opener very messy. Like, I did not like this. I did not like. Actually, I take that back. It was a messy opener, but no, I actually don't. I actually don't take that back. A messy opener, and for the most part, not in a good way, because this was a complete clusterfuck. And for one, yes, official to keep track of everything. Like, there's only one official. There's one official to keep track of everything. Like, nowadays, you have multiple officials that keep track of everything. Like, why was there only one official, like, in the ring, keeping track of everything? Like, because, like, throughout the match, like, you had multiple instances of people eliminating each other, and then there's nobody to catch it. There's literally no one to catch it, because that one official was, like, just there, like, tending to something else. And then there were other eliminations happening, and it's like, oh, I didn't see it. I didn't see it, pal. It's like an NFL penalty, like, going unnoticed. It was literally like that back then. And so anyway, maybe it was done purposely. Yeah, like I said, multiple instances of that happening. So the final two came down to the Acolytes and the Hardys, which did bring some extra drama, by the way, where both teams traded eliminations, only for the lone referee to, again, not catch it because he was too busy overseeing the in-ring stuff that was happening. But the finish saw Bradshaw and Matt Hardy hanging each other onto the ropes, where Jeff tried to eliminate Bradshaw, only to get super yeeted out of the ring by Farouk to win the match for the APA and a tag team title match at the 2000 Royal Rumble. So yeah, this is a complete mess. Like, why did they have one official, like, at ringside? Like, this would have been better booked if they had another official there. But other than that, like, nothing really of note happened for this matchup. So this is a really bad way to start off the pay-per-view. Like, yeah, I didn't like this at all. So our second matchup of the night had Kurt Angle taking on Steve Blackman. Yes, a young Kurt Angle here, pal. This was just his first of few matches, because he debuted back at Survivor Series. He won his debut match, was on this undefeated streak, and his next opponent happened to be Steve Blackman at this show. So when it came to this match, it was just a very straightforward wrestling match. But like I said, this is a very young Kurt Angle. Like, this is, like, in terms of, his wrestling career, like, he was still finding his footing in the WWF. He had just begun adapting into his new villain role. Like, they tried to go with the babyface route for like 1 or 2 weeks, but that failed. So they switched it a little bit. He was slowly getting to that heel role that everyone started to like. Eventually, being this arrogant American delusional heel that, again, everyone loved to hate. And then, yeah, it was during the time, like, Angle was not yet as crisp with the pro wrestling style, in contrast to his prior amateur wrestling background, where he won the gold medal with a broken freaking neck. So, yeah, it was still relatively young Kurt Angle. So Angle won the match with a bridge German suplex, similar to the one we see with Chad Gable nowadays, with the Chaos Theory suplex. But however, Steve Blackman managed to get some payback on Angle after Angle was messing around with Steve Blackman for prior to the pay-per-view. So Steve Blackman attacked him with his nunchucks on Kurt Angle in a post-match attack. So yeah, that was pretty much this match. Very straightforward. It was so-so. I really don't have much else to say about it, so we're gonna move on. And then we had this match. This match to follow up a straightforward match. The WWF Women's Champion Ivory taking on Miss Kitty, Jacqueline, and BB in this kind of match. An evening gown pool match. Yeah, pal. Yeah, you ready to get wet and wild? You want to get wet and wild, pal? Hell yeah, pal. You want to get wet wild? Oh boy, yeah, this is how it was back then. This is how it was. I mean, we can get wet. Stop. Okay. But for what it's worth, though, I mean, it did have some sort of build, I guess. I mean, 3 of these 4 women fought each other in a variety of specialty matches, whether it was hardcore matches, fighting in a gravy bowl. It led to this match. How BB got involved in this? Well, she actually was an EMT that helped Miss Kitty in an attack from Ivory. And that BB person is actually a initial for Barbara Bush. No, I'm not talking about that Barbara Bush, the one that other politician. But no, it's the WWF's Barbara Bush. I don't know why that had to be the initial, but whatever. So anyway, BB decided to challenge Ivory for the title in an even gown pool match that we have here at Armageddon. So 6 days before the pay-per-view, it was announced that Ivory would also defend the title against Kitty and Jacqueline in this said match. And then, just when you thought it would get very even more interesting, in air quotes, the Fabulous Moolah and Mae Young would serve as the special guest referees. Oh, pal. Just when you thought the sun would set. No, it was going to rise, pal. It was going to rise. There was ass and there was puppies, as Jerry Lawler would quite frankly say it. Everyone in the arena, everyone at home, where was in the past or now, they were getting corny. And no, I'm not gonna say that out of word. They're getting corny with it, pal, in this match. We're not gonna discuss if I was, Miss Kitty would wind up being the winner, and the new women's champion after last taking off the gown, because that's how you won this match. You had to push the people in the pool and then take off their evening gown. Yeah, that was the whole purpose of this match. And then she last took off the gown of former champion Ivory, and then that moment post match where Katie sort of delivered on her promise of, what? I mean, do I even need to describe it? Do I need to describe what exactly happened? It was like it's like I don't know. Like, she decided, you know what? She decided to show her puppies. Yeah. It's simple as that. You want to go find it? It's literally on YouTube. If you're on Twitter, you're on Instagram, it's literally all over your feed. Like, whoever's like engagement farming on there, it's literally all over the place. It's like Miss Kitty showing her puppies. It's literally everywhere, man. So yeah, this Attitude Era had some crazy times for women's wrestlers, and I know people, the crowd, they always want to like go all in on that and call it like, there's what's this but man, I mean, I get it. It was a different time back then. It's a different time now. But yeah. That time, man. Oh man, those times. I mean, don't get me wrong. There's still, there's still some times here in these days, but I mean, certainly not as but I mean, I don't know. I don't know. Moving on. I don't want to discuss it any further because, the crowd. But we'll leave it at that. So, yeah. Miss Kitty was your women's champion in that kind of interesting match. So, moving on with a makeshift tag team matchup. Hardcore and Crash Holly took on the makeshift team of Rikishi and Viscera. This matchup was literally made up on the spot, like on Sunday Night Heat, where the recently debuted Rikishi, who had been feuding with the Hollies since Survivor Series, and he came to the aid of Viscera during his weigh-in on the Sunday Night Heat pre-show, coming to the aid of the Viscera, and that set up this match. So this is one of those, can they coexist before can they coexist became a thing in the modern IWC. So this was a generally quick match that surprisingly had the Hollies win in a big upset because the big men could not coexist. So yeah, there's that. But I will say though, Rikishi showed here why he was eventually going to be one of the most popular faces in the year of 2000. So, I mean, this was like one of those early showcases for Rikishi's, I guess. So the Hollies won this match after Viscera accidentally hit Rikishi with a spin kick that was meant for Crash Holly, and the Hollies stole the win from here. And then afterwards, the two big men fought each other, and they had to be separated by referees. So, yeah, it was what it is. So then we got a three-way match between the WWF European Champion, the British Bulldog, taking on D'Lo Brown and Val Venus. All three men had been beefing with each other since Survivor Series, with Venus and D'Lo Brown each wanting a shot at Bulldog's European title. So all three of them have been getting involved in each other's matches since then. And then after British Bulldog attacked them both in a number one contenders match 6 days prior to Armageddon, this three-man match was official. So that's how we got this matchup here. So this matchup was actually probably the highlight of the night. Aside from, you know what, earlier with the kitties. But no, aside from the kitties, this properly was the highlight of the night. This actually was a fun little three-way between all three men. Everyone got a chance to shine with very simplistic offense that show how badly they wanted the European Championship. At the same time, they also frequently went to double team one another, which I thought was a nice touch. And I get it. They all want to become the champion, but they also, you know what? They also took turns double teaming one person, and then the other like say another one. Let's go ham and attack one person, and we'll take turns teaming upon another. So yeah, they did that kind of thing. So the finish was also nicely done with D'Lo Brown hitting the low down frog splash onto the British Bulldog. But then you had right after Val Venus stealing the win in the European Championship with the money shot splash onto both of them. So that was a fun match. I liked the ending. I liked this little showcase that all three men had. Val Venus was, I think it was an interesting year for him during this time. He had that hello, ladies kind of thing going for him. He also had a heel turn going on. I think it was around this time too. But then he went right back to being face. He was a face here. I don't know. But either way, he won back the European title. So yeah, good for him. And he's back to being European champion. So next up, we had Kane versus X-Pac inside of a steel cage. Why was it in a steel cage match? Well, let's tell you why in the most simplistic way. Basically, Kane actually beat X-Pac at Survivor Series. However, it was by disqualification because, well, he got jumped by the rest of D-Generation X. So why was he beefing with D-Generation X? Well, Kane was actually got brought into their inner circle. He had that little one little spat with DX, and DX actually managed to get him to say his first few words, albeit with a voice box where he said, "Suck it," and all that. And then they later found out he was using them, all that. I don't remember the whole story, but anyway, that led to this feud with X-Pac. And then, like I said, with the disqualification finish. And then the next month saw Kane losing all these various matches because of X-Pac or because of DX. And then that led to this steel cage match. And then earlier in the night, X-Pac added an extra stipulation right before the match, where Kane could only win by pinfall, where X-Pac could win by the three ways you can win: pinfall, submission, or escaping the cage. So Kane couldn't escape the cage. He basically could just win by pinning X-Pac. So this match was okay. The New Age Outlaws came out mid-match to unlock the cage doors with bolt cutters to help out their friend. They also slid in a steel chair and some handcuffs to, maybe get Kane, handcuffed to the ropes or something. But as X-Pac was putting the hurt on a handcuffed Kane, Tori came out to stop him, only to receive the X Factor facebuster from X-Pac, which pissed off the big red machine. And he managed to free himself and make a disadvantage into an advantage by going out of the cage door, stopping X-Pac from climbing down, and bringing him back in. And Kane flew from 10 feet high above the cage and onto X-Pac. Then he hit the Tombstone Piledriver for the win. And yeah, I mean, it was actually pretty decent, but I felt like went on a little bit too long, in my opinion. But I liked the last couple of minutes, though. I liked Kane using some creativity around the stipulation, and then the handcuffs where he managed to escape out of it. And then even though he didn't have the escape the cage stipulation, he made use of it. He made use of being able to get out of the cage. And even though it didn't lead him to winning, he made it an advantage. Not letting X-Pac escape, and then he flew up, he dove down onto him, and then, got the win, pinning X-Pac. It also made X-Pac look stupid. But I mean, it makes sense. He's a stupid heel, so why the hell not? So, Kane got the win. I mean, decent match, but I mean, a bit too long in my opinion. So then we had the WWF champion, not the WWF champion, the Intercontinental champion, Chyna, taking on Chris Jericho. This match that some people had going but a lot of people were like, okay, this is something. This is something interesting. So, Chyna and Chris Jericho had been feuding with each other since Chyna had won the Intercontinental Championship from Jeff Jarrett. Yes, Jeff Jarrett position, pal. At No Mercy, in that good housekeeping match, it was. And then Jericho, the reason why he's been going after Chyna, because, well, he didn't believe Chyna should be the Intercontinental Champion because, well, gender reason, pal. So he'd been hurling all these constant insults at her. Well, his words came back to bite him when it mattered most. At Survivor Series, Chyna beat Jericho straight up to keep the title. And you know what? Chyna and Miss Kitty decide to make Jericho pay even more, costing him multiple matches in the last month. So Jericho decided to have enough of it. He challenged Chyna to another match at Armageddon, to which she accepted. And man, I gotta tell you, man, this match is a battle of the sexes done right. And I know people will get on my case for it. It's like, what are you talking about, Dylan? Like, this is not realistic. This is not realistic at all. But hear me out. Hear me out. And I get it. It was the times back then. And when you look at something like, for example, nowadays, and all the, I don't know, it's kind of simmered down right now. For example, Rhea Ripley versus Dominic Mysterio, which I honestly don't want either, because, the way they're booking Rhea Ripley and Dominic Mysterio, especially Rhea. But when they were booking it at the time, they were booking both Jericho and Chyna on an equal playing field. They're putting on a simple yet well-told story, both in the ring and out. And again, even though Jericho was throwing in a bunch of misogynistic insults at Chyna, but Chyna was at least, making Jericho eat those words. For as unrealistic as people thought it was, whether it was at the time or now. But when it came to both that Survivor Series match and at Armageddon, this match particularly, this is when it was done right. They put on a simple yet well-told story in the ring of who was the better sex. Chyna's gut and courage to stand toe-to-toe with Jericho. It was pretty good. And then you had Jericho's desperation to finally beat Chyna. Because, like I said, he was shook when he lost at Survivor Series. And he was desperate to get that Intercontinental Championship and, beat Chyna. So Chyna got a lot of offense in on this match on Jericho. But Jericho, he did too. He got in on Chyna as well, which made this work. Which is why I think, in my opinion, a match like Rhea Ripley and Dominic Mysterio won't work, because Triple H won't he won't let Dom get any offense on Rhea, which is why, like I said, the times it won't work in that kind of intergender match, which is why they had the advantage back then. So Jericho would wind up winning the Intercontinental title back after making Chyna tap to the walls of Jericho. Chyna did put up a fight, trying to escape it, but unfortunately she submitted. And while Jericho was getting interviewed, they showed some mutual respect there, pal, for one another. So pretty nice matchup here. This is a really nice matchup here. My second highlight of this pay-per-view. I liked it. I like this matchup here. And some people will rag me down on it. Some people will hate me on that. But when you do a intergender matchup, a battle of the sexes done right, I like this. I like this a good amount. I liked it a good amount. So now moving on to the WWF Tag Team Championship match between the New Age Outlaws and the Rock and Sock Connection. I'm not sure why this had to be on the card, but let's talk about it. Why I feel that way. So, The Rock. We all love The Rock, right? But for some reason, he decided going into this pay-per-view, he wanted to, try to square up. He wanted to square up against Big Boss Man and Prince Albert with the audience as his tag team partner. But after seeing that, he was getting his butt whooped, Mankind, after breaking up the Rock and Sock Connection after he was doing all so well, he had to save his butt because the Rock was getting dominated so bad. So The Rock and Mankind win that match together, reuniting the Rock and Sock Connection after a month of disbanding. And then they went on to win a number one contenders match, beating the Hollies. And they get this tag team title match against the New Age Outlaws. So, yeah, like I said, it's great that The Rock is on this pay-per-view. It's great that he's teaming with Mick Foley on the show. But that's where the greatness ends. Really. Because this match, all four guys really didn't do all that much. Because they faced each other before in tag team matches. And sometimes in singles competition too. So they really didn't do all that much to make things feel different from the last time they faced each other. And also, this felt really long at times. We were just waiting for that hot tag from whether it's The Rock or Mick Foley. And not only that, this just went on not just minutes longer than it needed to, but the fact that it ended in a disqualification thanks to Al Snow and his head. Really? A DQ? An unnecessary one at that? What the hell? Why? Why did we need that? Who wrote, Vince Russo wasn't even writing that back then. He wasn't even writing for the WWF back then. Like, who wrote a not even no disqualification. Who wrote a disqualification finish for such a long match? Like, why? It makes no sense. It really doesn't make any sense. It's like, if you wanted to like take the titles off of the New Age Outlaws, you could have, but why DQ? Like, it makes no sense. So not exactly the best use of all four guys, especially in a sluggish match where they were really losing the crowd at one point. Like, for someone like The Rock and Mick Foley, and hell, even the New Age Outlaws, like all four guys, they were very popular, but they were losing the crowd in this one. So this was really bad, especially with a really bad finish. I don't know, man. It's like, for as two matches that were pretty good on the show, there's a lot of bad so far. But oh wait, it gets even better, because we had the WWF Championship on the line with it's the Big Show taking on the Big Boss Man. Let's just say the storyline behind it is one that people will are not really fond of, because this is the storyline that involved Big Boss Man exploiting Big Show's dad's death. In actuality, his dad died years earlier, so this is a kayfabe death. Why exactly they do a Big Show's dad passing away storyline? I don't know. I have no idea. But this is just one of many weird things about Big Show's WWE career. I mean, don't get me wrong, I've grown to miss Big Show for some reason, but this is just very strange. And this was like the first year of Big Show's, the first year of Big Show in the WWE, by the way. And this is a very strange start. So anyway, this feud involved the controversial funeral segment a week before Survivor Series, where you had the Big Boss Man raiding Big Show's dad's funeral, and he attacked the Big Show. He ruined his dad's grave, and he dragged Big Show and his dad's casket with the hearse, with that big chain. And it was like, well then, well then. So yeah, you had that whole segment, and then days later, you had Big Show beating Big Boss Man and his team in a 4-on-1 Survivor Series match. But then Big Show's night wasn't over there. He replaced Stone Cold Steve Austin because he had to get written off because he was severely hurt in reality. Yeah, this was during the time where, oh yeah, I forgot. Steve Austin, yeah, the face of the company, he was severely injured. He really had to get neck surgery. And yeah, he was out for like 10 months. So yeah, Steve Austin got replaced by the Big Show in the WWE title triple threat later in that night, and he beat Triple H and The Rock in that match. Yeah. And this is how we got Big Boss Man versus the Big Show on this pay-per-view. So this is a match that happened. Like, I kid you not. Like, and you know why? How this was a match that happened? Because this is a match that happened because it ended just like that. Like, the Big Show ran down to the ring and whooped Big Boss Man's ass just like that. Like, sure, the Boss Man tried to use the steel steps to take control, even though it was nowhere stated it was a no DQ match. Like, why was he using the steel steps? Like, and the referee was like right there. Like, where was it stated it was a no disqualification match? But then lifting the Big Show's ass was a chore for him because that allowed the champion to do this impressive kip up. Like, what the hell? Like, peak Big Show was just doing kip ups out of nowhere. And then he literally just chokeslammed the Big Boss Man into oblivion to keep his title. Like, apparently the actual time, recorded time, was 3 minutes. 3 minutes for this title match. Like, I kid you not. when I was watching this match for this review, I was just laughing. I mean, like probably more than the fucking puppies, the kitty puppies. I was laughing so much during this match because it was so bad. This was so terrible. Like, if you want the definition of fuck logic, this was it. This was fuck logic being amped up by a million. Like, Big Show essentially squashing Big Boss Man in 3 minutes after everything that Big Boss Man did to the Big Show, like in the last 2 months, like putting down Big Show's dad, like, and dragging his dead carcass in a cemetery. His dead dad and the Big Show, like, dragging it in a hearse. And then Big Show squashes his ass in 3 minutes. Like, I kid you not. I mean, maybe it makes sense. Maybe it makes a little sense, but like, it was just so funny. Like WWE promoting this as such a personal rivalry, and it just ends in a snap. Now, apparently WWF wanted to try something fresh and new with Big Show as WWE champion. Well, they certainly got it. They certainly got something out of me. It was a laugh, man. Like, this was the cherry topper for just how seriously flawed this show was. Like, look at all these matches that I just went through. And we haven't gotten to the main event yet. Like, aside from two matches out of how many we talked about? Like, this show has been so bad. Like this had barely anything of substance. Like, nothing, like barely anything to look forward to. Like, barely any angles to look forward to. Like, what the hell? If you're watching during the Attitude Era, like, how are you feeling about this show? Like, how are you, like, maybe I talked about it in the opener before we got into the card. Like, I was talking about from your perspective, like, why are you watching this? Now I kind of feel you. It's like, why did I go back and watch this on the 25th anniversary of this show? It's like, wow. Just wow, man. Like, this WWF Championship match, it's a cherry topper, man. It's a cherry topper. I mean, I had some good laughs. But when you look at it from a story perspective, there's just absolutely nothing with the WWE Championship match. Like, the Big Show squashing the Big Boss Man after everything he's done. Like nothing. It's just nothing. So, I mean, I had some good laughs with this pay-per-view. I really have. But can it amount to anything that we're going to talk about with this main event? Let's talk about it. The main event match, Vince McMahon taking on Triple H in a no-holds-barred match. This was the very hyped up main event match at the time. And, you know, it was a match like back then. I saw snippets of it back then on like Instagram, Twitter. I think I watched the full match of it on YouTube at one point that WWE released on their channel. That, you know, I kind of forgot about it. The full thing about it until, you know, I saw it for this. So this was a heavily promoted match that started out back in the fall, where Vince McMahon, you know, he had lost control of the WWF back at the Fully Loaded pay-per-view in July, but then he returned in September, not as the CEO, but because of something that Triple H had done. He decided to make things personal, threatening his wife, Linda McMahon, and that started a whole chain of events that spanned for the rest of the year, starting a feud between Triple H and Vince. Triple H had lost the WWF title at Survivor Series, and he decided to blame Vince for it, and for the attack on Steve Austin that took him out of the WWF title match, and for the majority of 10 months. So things would get even more heated the next month between both of them. Vince destroying DX's limo. But then perhaps the more infamous thing that happened during this feud was the quote unquote wedding between Vince's daughter, Stephanie McMahon, who would start to have her television presence increase more prominently, and Test on the November 29th episode of Raw. So as they were about to, say those words, I do, they were about to kiss. There was a video that Triple H showed of himself taking a drunk, hungover Stephanie McMahon to, one of those marriage drive-thrus that you usually see in Las Vegas. I don't remember if it was exactly in Vegas, but nonetheless, Triple H took a drunk Stephanie to one of those drive-thru marriage things, and basically signaled that they're married now. They are married now, which basically enraged Stephanie, Test, and Vince. So you got that whole shebang going on. And then the week leading up to the Armageddon show, Triple H announced that he and Vince were going to fight in a no-holds-barred match. And in that match, he had two stipulations. If Triple H lost that match, his marriage between him and Stephanie would be annulled. So basically, null and void. But if Triple H won, he would get a WWF title match against, whoever the champion was, whether it was Big Show or somebody else. So, as expected, this is a highly heated matchup. The two fought all over the arena, inside and out. But as was the theme throughout the night, this definitely could have been cut several minutes out of the match. Several minutes, definitely could have been trimmed down. This didn't need to be as long as it needed to be. The only unique things that they did in this match was Triple H nearly running over Vince, and then Vince bouncing off that 10-foot scaffold set that caused him to bleed. Literally, those were the only unique things that I could think of that were the most interesting parts of the match. Other than that, they were just fighting all over the arena, fighting all over the crowd, fighting backstage. It was just almost, think of it like tribal combat from SummerSlam last year. It is literally that back in the Attitude Era. Mine, trimmed 15 minutes less than the tribal combat match at last year's SummerSlam. So that happened. And the crowd was not really super into this one at all. And I really can't blame them because there wasn't really that much happening until the very end, where you had Triple H grab the mic, started talking down on Stephanie as he was about to finish off Vince McMahon. But Vince, he had one more last gasp. But as he was about to behead Triple H with the sledgehammer, Stephanie decided to jump the barricade to get the sledgehammer from him because she seemingly wanted to do it personally. But it seemed like she hesitated a bit, and that hesitation allowed Triple H to grab it and knock Vince out for the win with the sledgehammer. So Triple H won this match. He won a WWF championship match against whoever the champion was going to be at the next pay-per-view. But then shock and sadness turned to adoration and happiness as that ending I talked about earlier in this review ended up being the big revelation. The big revelation as to why I decided to review this pay-per-view in the first place. It ended up being the one big ruse by one Hunter Hearst Helmsley and Stephanie McMahon. Both of them hugging it out and revealing that it was all one big master plot by that two-person power couple, and they hugged it out in the ring, left like a true happy couple, and there you go. You got a brand new at the time power couple in the WWF, the World Wrestling Federation, and from there, the rest was history. So, yeah, You want to talk about the most dominant, most powerful, the hottest couple in the WWE? I'm sorry, Liv and Dom fans out there. I'm sorry. I mean, sure. I mean, you can talk about like, sure, right now, but it's like, no, like in history, I think it's like, I have to say it's Triple H and Stephanie, because they ruled the WWF with an iron fist. Like, no joke. I mean, but when you look at this match, there's really nothing to remember, to be honest with you. But other than the closing moment and the shock reveal to close out Armageddon and to close out the 1990s, to close out the 1900s, going into the 2000s, going into the new millennium. But other than that, that was like the biggest thing to remember from this very bad show. So overall, when you look at this pay-per-view, Armageddon 1999, yeah, this was a very bad show. This is a very bad show that was poorly paced. And a lot of the matches absolutely did not belong in this show. Like The Rock and Mankind wrestling the New Age Outlaws for 16 minutes just to win by DQ. When you saw them do that often on Raw, like in most weeks, like why do we need to do that here on a pay-per-view? And did we really need a filler tag team match after that pool party women's title match? I mean, like, don't get me wrong, I that pool party sounds fun right now. But man, don't get me started on the WWF title match. Yeah, that's squash match, pal. But all in all, you know, aside from the European and Intercontinental title matches, not a lot of quality on this show. Like, this show was really bad. I wouldn't say borderline terrible, because those two title matches and, you know, the biggest takeaway being the ending, it saved it. That those three things saved it. Of course, being the biggest takeaway from it all being the beginning of history for Triple H and Stephanie McMahon going into the new decade as this power couple. Well, on screen and, you know, eventually, IRL. So, yeah, Armageddon 1999, big thumbs down for me. In the Old Icebox, shoving it down as hard as possible, down deep into the depths of the freezer, for me, in my opinion. Yeah, on its 25th anniversary, big thumbs down. But again, you know, it was the beginning of history for Triple H and Stephanie McMahon, rolling the WWF with an iron fist. But this show itself, very, very, very bad. But let me know what you thought about WWF Armageddon in the comments below. And let's have a conversation about it. Did you watch this show back then? Did you watch it very recently? I love to have a conversation about this pay-per-view, this mess of a show, in the comments on YouTube or on social media, and whether it's on Twitter or Instagram. And with that, thank you for tuning in to another episode of the Very Cold Lasagna podcast. I have been your host, Dylan Lasagna. This was episode number 234 of this icy yet spicy podcast for all the filthy casual takes on the world of sports. Don't forget to give me your takes on this topic, that's being the 1999 WWF Armageddon pay-per-view, whether it's on the comments on YouTube or slide into the DMs on social media at Very Cold Lasagna. But until then, keep that lasagna very cold in the fridge with your takes on the world of sports. And until the next episode, I'll see you when I see you then. And until then, peace out.